Okay, I'll go ahead and get started this morning by just officially welcoming all of you guys. Sawadee Kap. Welcome to Wat Tung Yu. Nice to see all of you guys. Welcome to those of you guys that are here and those of you guys that are joining us online. Welcome to everyone. This is our group learning program where today what we do is I guide you in meditation and then I open up to any and all questions that you guys have. On Sundays and Wednesdays, we get together and I help students to understand the teachings in order to get to the enlightened mental state where the mind can be peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. By the time you get to enlightenment, all your anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, boredom, loneliness, shyness, resentment, jealousy, all of that has been eliminated from the mind. Even the slightest displeasure is no longer experienced in the enlightened mind, that you can train your mind to get to the peace and joy. You'll notice that you have focus, concentration, clarity of mind. You'll have deep memory, and your personal and professional relationships will really improve. They'll really blossom. Like I mentioned, you won't even be in a bad mood anymore. You'll just always be in a good mood. Meditation is part of that, but you need certain teachings to help you understand how to move the mind to this enlightened mental state. And on Sundays, I go chapter by chapter in this first book of the book series that I share. The first book is titled Developing a Life Practice, The Path That Leads to Enlightenment. You can download this for free from our website. You can take it and go print it, or you can get printed copies either here at the temple or you can order them on Amazon as well. The printed versions here, we just ask that you reimburse us for our printing costs, essentially is what we're doing, because we would like to see you guys get the teaching so that you can learn and train your mind and be able to get to this enlightened mental state. So again, welcome to all of you guys that are here. And what we'll do is start with meditation, because meditation is an important part of training your mind, but you wouldn't be able to just meditate your way to enlightenment. You need much more than just meditation, but you also wouldn't be able to get to enlightenment without meditation. So I'll start you guys off with some meditation, and then I'm just going to open up to any and all questions that you guys have related to the teachings of the Buddha, the path to enlightenment, anything that you're seeing here in Thailand, or anything that you're seeing about Buddhism that you have questions about. You're welcome to ask any and all questions. So this meditation that I'm going to share with you guys is called Breathing Mindfulness Meditation. This is the primary form of meditation that the Buddha used as he trained his mind to enlightenment. And normally people are learning in the seated position. You guys are all seated on the floor, but you can also sit in a chair as well. There's no need to feel any pain or anything like that. If you ever experience any pain or anything like that, feel free to get more cushions or a chair or something like that. I'm going to start the meditation by guiding you in some chanting. If you guys would like to chant along, you're welcome to. I'm going to be chanting. The chants are over there on the table. There's a laminated sheet that you can get that if you like. There's the chants in the Pali language. This is the original language of the teachings of the Buddha, and you can see them in the Pali language because that's what I'll be chanting in. And then there's the English translations there as well that you can see those. If you read the English translations, you'll notice that there's a lot of respect and gratitude and admiration for the Buddha. And I suspect that his students probably created these chants either during his life or after his death, because a Buddha doesn't walk around with a bunch of arrogance and ego and being boastful. They're not going to talk to other people and try to get them to bow down to them and chant these chants for them. Instead, what a Buddha is going to do is having eliminated their ego, being humble and down to earth, they would share teachings to help people get to this enlightened mental state where they're no longer experiencing the anger, sadness, frustration, and all those other discontent feelings. And the individual student, if they've trained their mind, they'll be able to get to this peace and this joy that is a permanent mental state. So if somebody helped you to go from the anger and the sadness and the frustration, this unenlightened mind, to this enlightened mind where you're just always peaceful and always joyful, you'd probably have a lot of gratitude and respect for that person. So I suspect that his students had a high degree of gratitude and appreciation and respect for him, and that's why these chants were created by his students, either during his life or after his death. So I chant these in order to ease the mind into meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself. It kind of helps to invigorate the mind, gain awareness of the mind and awareness of the breath. But during the lifetime of the Buddha, they used chanting as a way to commit the teachings to memory. The Buddha's teachings were all oral during his life. So when he would teach, his students would remember those teachings, and then once every 2 weeks, they would come together and they would chant them and recite them word for word in order to commit them to memory. So we don't need to chant in order to commit the teachings to memory anymore. We have books, we have videos, podcasts, things like this that capture the teachings. But I still do chanting as a way to ease the mind into meditation and actually get more benefit out of the meditation itself. It's not a rite, a ritual, or a ceremony or worship. It's not prayer. There's nothing mystical or magical going on when you're chanting. Literally, it just helps to invigorate the mind and bring awareness to the mind and awareness to the breath so you can get more benefit out of the meditation itself. So if you'd like to chant along, you're welcome to. So I'll start with chanting, and then we'll go into meditation. You'll hear me providing you guidance as we're in meditation. I'll be guiding you to help you understand how to meditate. But then there's going to be a period of time where it'll just be quiet and we'll just be meditating together. Those of us here and those of you guys online, we'll just all be meditating together. Of course, you're going to hear the occasional dog bark or a car go by or a bird chirping or something like that, because you can't experience permanent quietness. It's not possible. This world is impermanent, so you're going to hear various sounds, and you're going to hear me guide you in meditation that when your mind moves off the breath, that you bring it back to the breath. And I'll explain that as we are in meditation. So after that period of quietness and meditation where we're all meditating, then we'll come out of meditation with some more chanting. And then I'll open up to all the questions you guys have, either here at the temple or online. You can ask questions online by putting that into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom. Or in Zoom, you can raise your hand electronically and ask any questions that you like. So if you'd like to make yourself comfortable on the floor, usually what students will do is they will lightly cross their legs. Some people like to put their legs off the mat. This gets the hips up in the air and lessens the angle at the hips, the knees, and the ankles, and allows the circulation to flow. You would like your legs to just be lightly crossed. The hands and the arms, the Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together, and he put this into his lap. If this helps you and you like it and it feels comfortable, wonderful, use it. But not everybody's going to find that comfortable. This isn't about everybody doing it exactly the same way. It's about finding what's comfortable for you. So some people might prefer to put their hands on their thighs or their knees or their palms up. It's whatever's comfortable for you. Your lower body and your hands and arms should be comfortable and relaxed. Not luxurious, but not painful either, in the middle. And if at any point that you need a chair or anything like that, feel free to get one of those. People usually sit in a chair with their feet flat on the floor or lightly crossed at the ankles, and then again, just resting their hands wherever they feel comfortable. The upper body should be erect. This keeps the mind attentive and alert during the meditation. It also allows you to breathe better because your sternum's up, your shoulders are back, and it allows you to take a full inhale. As I chant, you're welcome to either chant along, or if you'd like to just close your eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose, you could do that as well. And then I'll be back for some guidance after we do the chanting. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakava Bhutang Mahakavanhang Apivateyami Savakato Mahakavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Mahakavato Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namami Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Sama Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Sama Sambuddhassa. Iti piso mahakawa arahang sama sambuddho vicacaranang sambuddho Sakatoro kawitu anutero purisa Dhammasati satatawa manusanang Bhutto Bhagavati. Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable and the upper body erect, just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath. A nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then, when you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. So you can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathe in gradually through the nose, establishing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then when you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. อะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธมหาเกวาพุทธังมหาเกวันหังอภิวาเทมิสวากขาโตมหาเกวัตตาธัมโมธัมมังนามัสสามิสุปฏิปันโนมหาเกวัตโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสอิติปิโสมหาเกวาอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารนังสัมโมสกขาโตโรกาวิโตอนุเตโรปุริสาธัมมาสติสัตตาตาวาปนุสนังโอโตภาควาติ Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. Okay, I'd like to welcome you guys once again. Those of you guys that joined us since we started meditating, welcome to all of you guys, including those of you guys that are online. Welcome to everyone. If you haven't been here to the temple before and this is maybe your first time, I'll just share a couple of things with you to help you get more acquainted to the temple. Is back here in the back of the room, there's a bathroom. Feel free to get up and use the restroom at any time that you like. There's even bathrooms outside the classroom. If you follow the main signs, you'll go around to the main bathroom. So you're welcome to use the restroom at any time that you like. We even have water here that is provided by our students. So if you would like some water, feel free to help yourself to any kind of water. Today's class is just all about giving you guys an opportunity to ask any and all questions that you might have related to the path to enlightenment or the teachings of the Buddha, meditation, or anything like that. If those of you guys here have questions, we have microphones here in the white bowl. If you guys could use those, there's a gray button that you just press on the front of the microphone. A light comes on, and then you just speak into the microphone, and that way we'll hear you here at the temple, and they'll also hear you online as well. And for those of you guys online, you can ask questions by putting those into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom. Or in Zoom, you can raise your hand electronically and ask any questions that you like. To help you guys get a little bit more acquainted with this meditation, I'll share a little bit about this meditation, and then we'll open up to any questions that you guys have related to anything at all. This meditation is called Breathing Mindfulness Meditation. It's helping you to cultivate the wholesome qualities of mindfulness or awareness of mind and concentration so that you can have focus and concentration. And then it's helping you to eliminate the unwholesome quality of the mind called craving, desire, attachment. This is the mind longing, yearning. This is what's causing your anger, your sadness, your frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, boredom, loneliness, shyness, resentment, jealousy, all the displeasure, any type of discontent feeling that you have in the mind. It's coming from this unwholesome quality of craving, desire, attachment, the mental longing and strong eagerness. Oftentimes in the unenlightened state, an individual will think that other people are causing you to be angry, or other people are causing you to be frustrated, or this situation's causing you to be frustrated. But this isn't actually true. The mind is actually causing these feelings itself. And because the mind is causing this itself, you can actually eliminate them through training the mind. So this meditation is helping you to develop the awareness of mind so that in daily life, when you're out and about, you can have awareness of what's going on in the mind. And if you can observe the frustration or the annoyment or the agitation starting to arise, you can cut that off and let it go if you've been training your mind to let go in meditation. And you can have that focus, that concentration. This meditation, it isn't designed to help you eliminate your thoughts. You actually aren't going to be able to eliminate your thoughts as long as you're alive. You're going to have thoughts. But what you're doing is you're purifying the mind through training it in meditation and training it in daily life. The Buddha discovered 10 individual pollutions that are in the mind. These are referred to as the 10 fetters. Some people refer to them as taints or pollutions or defilements. What a fetter is like a shackle around your ankle with a chain and a ball. And in ancient times, they used this to keep prisoners trapped in a certain place. So these 10 fetters or these 10 pollutions are keeping the mind trapped in the unenlightened state, continuing to experience anger and sadness and frustration and all these other discontent feelings. You can actually eliminate the causes and conditions that are producing these feelings so that those feelings never actually arise. But on your way to enlightenment, you're going to still experience these types of feelings. But if you train your mind in meditation regularly, you can get to the point where in daily life you notice when these feelings are about to arise, and you can actually cut off and let go, and ultimately training your mind to get to the point where the frustration never arises, the anger never arises, the guilt and the shame, the fear and all these other things never actually arise in the mind because you've eliminated the conditions that are causing those things to arise, these pollutions of mind. So if during the meditation you experienced a bombardment of thoughts, this is very common when you first start learning meditation, that you might have rapid thoughts, like thought. This is very normal in meditation. Or you might have had a thought and you indulged in that thought for a period of time and you followed it and followed it and followed it. And then maybe 2 or 3 minutes down the road, you realized, oh yeah, that's right, I'm meditating. Let me bring the mind back to the breath. So if either of these two things occurred, you're not bad at meditation. You haven't done anything wrong. It's just what the untrained and undisciplined mind does, that if you lack control of the mind, that it will do this. By the time you get to enlightenment, when you're meditating, you'll still have thoughts, but you'll have occasional thoughts. There'll be this long period of time where the mind is quieted and stilled, but there'll ultimately be a thought during meditation. But in the enlightened mind, you'll notice that you've had a thought and you'll be able to easily cut it off and let it go very readily. Where in the unenlightened state, you tend to get bombardment of thoughts, or you indulge in a thought for a period of time. So you can quiet the mind, you can still the mind, but the goal isn't to actually eliminate your thoughts. You're actually building wholesome qualities of mindfulness or awareness of mind. You're building the wholesome quality of concentration or focus by focusing on the breath. And then anytime the mind moves off the breath, you're training the mind to let go. So if 20, 30, 50 times during your meditation, you needed to let go, and kept coming back to the breath, this is actually really helpful for the mind, because what the mind does in the unenlightened state is it holds on. This is the reason why it is experiencing all those discontent feelings, because it's holding on, wanting things to be a certain way. Certain sounds, certain odors, certain flavors, certain things you see. The mind in the unenlightened state has this craving, desire, attachment where it wants things, expecting things, desiring things, longing for things. And if you get things the way you want, you'll experience pleasant feelings like happiness, excitement, elation, thrill, exhilaration, euphoria. But if you don't get the things the way you want, your mind will experience the anger, the sadness, the frustration, and all those other painful feelings. This is the mind in the unenlightened state going up and down based on its cravings, desires, attachments. So it's not other people that are causing your mind to be discontent. It's your mind having this craving. In the unenlightened mind, it can be happy when it gets what it wants, and when it doesn't get what it wants, it experiences the sadness or the anger, the frustration. And when the unenlightened mind misunderstands what the problem is, you will tend to push people away from you. This is called aversion, where you falsely believe, have the misperception or the misunderstanding that your painful feelings are being caused by something external. So you will tend to push people away, or you will push the situation away, thinking that that's going to solve the problem. But it doesn't, because you just get angry or irritated about something else. It's only a matter of time. If that was the actual problem, when you push that person out of your way, or you push the situation out of your way, you wouldn't be angry anymore. So you can see that that's not the problem, because when you push someone away, you haven't solved anything. You just pushed somebody out of your life. Or when the mind has this misunderstanding of what the real problem is, you might be bitter and harsh and hostile towards someone through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. And then again, people might choose to leave out of your life at that point because they're experiencing this harshness and animosity and bitterness from you. Or you might put your expectations on people and trying to control people to do things your way. This is what the unenlightened mind does. It pushes things away. This is called aversion. It's bitter and harsh and hostile towards people sometimes. Or you might put your expectations on an individual. And this is the mind trying to get its cravings fulfilled. But the mind doesn't understand that this is not going to solve its problems, because people around you aren't going to do things your way. There's 8 billion people in the world, and you can't get 8 billion people to do things your way. And this is the mind's own ego and the mind's own arrogance trying to think that what you do in life, everybody else should do those exact same things, just like you. And because people do things your way, you get happy. And when people don't do things your way, you might get sad or angry or frustrated or some other discontent feeling. So this meditation is there to help wear away this craving, desire, attachment, and build the wholesome quality of mindfulness, awareness of mind, and concentration. So in daily life, when you're out and about and you see your mind longing, yearning, and chasing after things, you can cut it off and let it go. Essentially, what you're doing in meditation is you're exercising the mind, just like a person who's a professional athlete would go in the gym and exercise. That's essentially what you're doing with the mind, is you're exercising the mind. So like a pole vaulter, they will go into the gym, they will do weight training, they will do cardiovascular training, they will do agility training, and then when they go out into their daily life, they will do this pole vaulting. They'll be a professional pole vaulter. So the same thing is when you're in meditation, you're cutting off and letting go of anything and everything that's arising in the mind. You're exercising the mind, making it better to be able to control and discipline the mind, so that in daily life, when you're in daily life, if you notice any unwholesome thought arising, you cut it off and let it go. So we're training in one way, where we're just cutting off anything that comes up, because we're just trying to get the mind used to letting go. So in daily life, when you have an unwholesome thought, you can then let that go. But in daily life, if you have a wholesome thought, like you maybe would like to take your mom to dinner or something like that, go for it, right? Go take your mom to dinner, or give your mom a call, see how she's doing, or, call your family or friends, or whatever it is that you're interested in doing that isn't going to cause harm to others. Do those things. They're wholesome. But if you have an unwholesome thought, an unwise thought, a harmful thought, that's what you would like to cut off and let go of. So this meditation is there to help you train your mind and discipline it, so that then you can control it. Because when your mind's angry and sad and frustrated and all those other discontent feelings, you're not able to control your mind in that situation because you haven't trained it. So you're not a bad person. You haven't necessarily done anything wrong. It's just that the mind lacks wisdom of how to train itself and how to get this discipline and control. So what people do is they come to a place like this, where you can receive teachings and guidance to understand how to train your mind, and then get to the point where through training your mind on a day-to-day basis, you can experience more peace and more joy in the enlightened mind. So the teachings of the Buddha, it's not about believing a bunch of things. and then hoping something good happens when you die. Instead, you're learning teachings, you're examining them, you're investigating them, you're reflecting on them to independently verify them, and then you're practicing them in order to train the mind and uproot the pollutions out of the mind. And as you do so, you see the peace and the joy coming into the mind more and more because you're eradicating the pollution. Your mind essentially is performing more optimally. Just like a musical instrument, if the string is too tight and you plucked it, it doesn't play beautiful music. But if the string was too loose and you pluck that, it doesn't play beautiful music. The instrument doesn't play the way it was intended to play. So the mind is the same way, that if it's too tight or it's too loose, it doesn't perform optimally, that this pollution in the mind is hindering it from having the focus, concentration, the clarity, the deep memory. It's hindering it from having very rewarding and fulfilling relationships. Because when you're pushing people away, being bitter and harsh and hostile and putting your expectations on people, as time goes on, the number of people you can spend time with becomes fewer and fewer and fewer and fewer. Because your mind gets all these expectations and all these things that you want. So you can clear that out of the mind and get to the point where you can live harmoniously with all beings, where you don't need to argue and be upset and angry and bitter and having animosity towards others. You can purify the mind of all of that. So this meditation is an important aspect of helping you to accomplish that, but you wouldn't be able to just meditate your way to enlightenment. So one of the biggest myths about the Buddha's life is that he sat under a tree, he meditated, and he instantly got to enlightenment. This isn't actually true. It took him about 6 years to get to enlightenment of gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress. So the same thing's true for you, that you're going to need that gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress. Just like when you learned how to speak English or anything else you've done in your life, any job or occupation, it's been gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress. So training your mind to get to enlightenment is the same way. So what I'll do is open up to any questions that you guys have, whether you're here at the temple or those of you guys online. Those of you online, you can put your questions into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or you can raise your hand electronically. Or if you guys have questions here about anything I've shared or anything that you've been exposed to related to the teachings of the Buddha, you're welcome to ask any and all questions that you like. And if you could just use the microphone there in the white bowl. Any questions here that you guys have? Yes, ma'am. Okay, see you. Bye-bye. Yep. Okay. Take care.
Just shared about if our mind is too intense or too loose, it's not helping. Can you explain more about what does it mean by too loose?
Sure. So what the unenlightened mind tends to experience is it's not in the middle way. It's not practicing the middle way. It tends to chase things, right, with craving, desire, attachment. It's on one side or the other. One side of it is that the mind has craving, desire, attachment. It's chasing the objects of its affection, wanting more money, wanting a bigger car, wanting a bigger house, wanting more friends, wanting new clothes, wanting, chasing, longing, yearning, thinking that something outside of you is going to provide some kind of lasting satisfaction. So that's what I would describe as being too tight. The mind's holding on to things very tightly and chasing after things, clinging to things, holding on to your relationships, your possessions, your money, your all kinds of things that the mind holds on to. But then on the other side of that, the mind can be indifferent, which I describe as too loose, where the mind's just like, so what? Who cares? I'm just going to be lazy, lethargic, complacent. This is the mind being too loose, that it's not actually pursuing the middle way, where the middle way, you pursue your goals, your objectives, your interests, and you gradually work towards those, whether it's career goals, whether it's personal goals, whatever it is that you have in your life in terms of goals, you can gradually work towards those, even whether it's money or anything else. Money is not bad. It's just that when someone chases after it and longs and yearns for it, it ends up causing the mind to produce unwise decisions that then produces unwholesome results. But also, if you never pursued money and you didn't have food and you didn't have clothing and you didn't have shelter, you wouldn't be able to provide for the things you need to sustain your life. So if you're chasing something like money, really, the mind's real tight, The mind's not content and peaceful there. But also, if you're too loose, where you're not attending to the needs of your food, water, clothing, shelter, and medical care, you're not going to have peace and joy there either, because you don't even have food to eat potentially, or a place to sleep, or clothing. So it's only when you practice this middle way related to all aspects of your life, where you gradually pursue things as a goal, objective, or interest, that the mind can be peaceful and joyful, pursuing its needs versus its wants. Right? The mind will tend to chase its wants, but in order to get to contentedness, peacefulness, and joy, you need to pursue your needs, and that's where the mind can ultimately be peaceful. Mm-hmm. Any other questions you guys have here? No questions? Okay, let me see what we have online. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions online. Sometimes students don't know what to ask. Sometimes they ask me to teach them something. You guys can do that as well. But if you guys don't have any questions, or you're not interested in learning anything, we can end class here. Yes, ma'am. You have some questions? Yep, you can use the microphone. Yeah. There's a little button on the front. You might have to press that. And there's the light that comes on.
How is it possible for the mind get out of a delusional state back to a more centered state?
Did you say, how does the mind get from a delusional state back to a more steady state? Is that what you said? Okay. So, by the way, you guys can keep those mics with you too and pass them around as you guys might have more questions. So this word delusion, we use this in the Buddhist teachings to refer to a certain pollution that's in the mind. There's different words for it. Delusion is one word. Some people use ignorance. I tend to use the phrase unknowing of true reality. There's also the word confusion or misunderstanding. This is what the unenlightened mind is experiencing, is that it essentially lacks wisdom. And this is what we refer to as delusion or confusion or misunderstanding or ignorance, or this unknowing of true reality. The word ignorance is kind of like a derogatory term nowadays. So that's why I tend to use the phrase unknowing of true reality, where the Buddha is essentially saying that the mind in the unenlightened state doesn't understand what it doesn't understand. The unenlightened mind doesn't understand, for example, that it's causing its own anger. Oftentimes in the unenlightened state, when your mind experiences anger, you think it's everybody else that's causing your anger. You might point to everyone else. You might blame other people for what you're experiencing. And the mind firmly believes in the unenlightened state that other people are causing you to be angry. And if you don't understand how the mind causes its own anger, that might be a question you ask me and I will help you to learn it. But that's part of the delusion, part of the ignorance, part of the unknowing of true reality, this lack of wisdom. So the way that you get the mind out of that is you cultivate wisdom. And that's why with the teachings of the Buddha, you don't believe any of his teachings. There's never a time where you hear the Buddha say, just believe me. Belief, you don't know what's true or false. So you can't believe your way to enlightenment. What you're looking to do is get to wisdom, that the Buddha taught these natural laws around you and how the world is. The Buddha didn't teach how the world should be, and if we all follow these rules and we all follow commandments, then the world will become a more peaceful place. That's not what the Buddha did. He didn't explain the world the way the world should be. He explained the way that the world is. And now when you understand how the world is, and you understand these natural laws that are around you, now you'll navigate the world more peacefully and more joyfully with wisdom that'll produce wholesome results. Because when you're in a world that you don't understand, you'll struggle and you'll have difficulties. You'll see things that people do, either in your life, in your relationships. You'll see things on the news and you'll say, I just don't understand why they keep doing that. I just don't understand why mom does that. I don't understand why brothers and sisters, why do they keep doing that thing? You don't understand the world that you live in, so you'll struggle and you'll have difficulties when it comes to making a decision. With a lack of wisdom, you'll naturally make unwise decisions and it will produce unwholesome results in your life. And when you experience those unwholesome results in your life, what the unenlightened mind will tend to do is blame other people for what you're experiencing, when in reality it came from from your own decisions, and it came from the lack of wisdom, this delusion. So if you learn teachings, investigate them, examine them, if you reflect on them to independently verify them, and then you practice them, you can get to wisdom where you can see the truth about these natural laws around you. And you did the same thing when it comes to the natural law of gravity. As you were growing up, you didn't understand the natural law of gravity. You fell down, you hit your head, you broke toys, you did all kinds of things like that because you just had a lack of wisdom. You weren't a bad person, you just lacked wisdom and you broke things and you fell down. We all did, right? We hit our head, we broke open our knees, we hit our elbows. We had all kinds of difficulties with this natural law of gravity. But by the age of about 10, 12, 14, we fully awoke to the wisdom of the natural law of gravity. We awoke to this wisdom, and now with that wisdom, we started making wiser decisions that then produced more wholesome results in our life. Now we can ride bicycles, we can ride motorbikes, we can climb ladders, we can get on airplanes, we can do all kinds of things because we make wiser decisions. We tie our shoes tight. We look at the surface of the sidewalks. We make wiser decisions because we have wisdom of this natural law of gravity. So we're experiencing wholesome results. So we fully awoke. We don't struggle with the natural law of gravity anymore. But there's other natural laws that your mind isn't aware of in the unenlightened state that with that lack of wisdom, you'll fall down. You'll hurt yourself, essentially. Just like we did with the natural law of gravity, we will struggle and have difficulties in the unenlightened state in our relationships and in our job and our career and all different kinds of things. But as you gain wisdom through learning, reflecting, and practicing, you understand these natural laws more and more closely, then you'll make wiser decisions that produce wholesome results. So the way that you eliminate delusion or this ignorance or unknowing of true reality is by cultivating wisdom and moving the mind to performing more and more optimally through training the mind. So some of the wisdom that you learn is how the mind functions. Essentially what the Buddha did is he took human psychology and he brought it down to a common language that a common person can understand, that you don't need to have a lot of technical ability to understand. You can just learn it as a common person in common language. And now by understanding the mind and understanding the world around you and you training your mind, you'll make wiser decisions and experience improved results. So just like you clean the body every day, you'll need to clean the mind and train the mind. But if you lack wisdom of how to train the mind with meditation, but also other techniques as well that the Buddha taught, these various tools and techniques, with a lack of wisdom, your mind's just untrained and it's just kind of like a wild animal, kind of in the forest, running around, frolicking in the forest, where if you tame your mind and you train your mind, you'll be able to see that then you can control it. And then it won't be all shaken up in situations where right now you might experience that. So in order to get to the elimination of delusion or confusion or misunderstanding, an individual needs to cultivate wisdom. And that's what leads to the improved condition of mind. Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. Yeah, you guys can take those mics back to your seats and hold on to them and pass them around.
I just had a question about the difference between natural law or natural laws and the 200 and something rules that monks follow. Do they relate at all? Are they the same effectively?
So the 227 precepts that the monks practice, I look at this as guidance and guidelines rather than rules, because rules, they're kind of like black and white. And if someone's creating rules, that means someone's got to enforce those rules. And there's typically some kind of punishment if you don't follow those rules. That's not what the Buddha did. Instead, what he did is he provided this structure that if you understand the precepts, these guidance that he's providing, it helps to create the best conditions for the mind to actually get to enlightenment. It creates an environment where the mind is very conducive to be able to get to enlightenment. So the ordained practitioners, they're practicing 227 precepts, which is guidance to be able to put the mind in the situation to be most successful in potentially getting to enlightenment. The way that I think about being ordained is it's like being in the womb of a woman. In the womb of a woman, this is the ideal environment for a fetus to grow. For a human being to grow in the womb of a woman, it provides the perfect environment, the perfect conditions. So being ordained, it provides a perfect environment for an individual to grow and develop. And it's those 227 precepts that the Buddha shared that provides that environment if somebody chooses to go in that direction. But you can also get to enlightenment in the household life too. By being in the household life, you need to have more inner discipline. You need to seek out the teachings and find a place where you can actually learn and things like this. But an individual can get to enlightenment from the household life as well. So those natural laws that the Buddha taught, the precepts and the guidelines that he shared in order to create this womb, is based on these natural laws. Understanding the natural laws the way that the Buddha would have, any Buddha would understand those natural laws very clearly, they are then able to create guidance that helps everybody to understand, okay, this is the way to help train your mind to eliminate these pollutions, so that then when you eliminate these pollutions, you experience this brightness and radiance and joy and peacefulness of the enlightened mind. So these precepts, they're not the natural laws themselves, but they're created based on the natural laws. Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Can one call oneself a Buddhist?
So this label of being Buddhist or not is just a label. By the time you get to enlightenment, you're going to need to drop all those labels out of your mind. The Buddha himself was not a Buddhist. Right? This term came later after his life. So nowadays people might adopt this label of I am Buddhist, but one of the things that you need to learn in order to get to enlightenment is to eliminate that identification of I am. I am anything. I am Buddhist. I am a Brit. I am a boyfriend. I am a girlfriend. I'm a husband. I'm a wife. I am a American. I am this. I am that. If whatever your job or occupation is, oftentimes the mind holds on to a self-identity based on your culture, your ethnicity, your sexual orientation, your nationality, your job or occupation, any number of things. The mind can hold on to this identity. So this is one of those things that the mind needs to let go of, because if you hold on to identity of like, I am Buddhist, well, when you hear people say like all Buddhists are friendly and loving and kind and generous and polite, you'll get happy, you'll get pleasant feelings. But it's only a matter of time before you hear somebody say something degrading and disparaging about Buddhists. So if you identify with I am Buddhist, when somebody says something degrading and disparaging, you're going to experience sadness or anger or frustration because you're identifying with that as who you are as a person. So you need to be able to eliminate all those kinds of labels from the mind. And there are certain tools and techniques that the Buddha teaches you to be able to eliminate that from the mind so that you don't identify with these things as being who you are. Now, in terms of eating meat, it's wise to move away from animal flesh and move towards plant-based food supply. But whether someone chooses to do that or not, it's their choice, right? It's not about one person making a bunch of rules and then sharing that with everybody. Now everybody has to conform to that, because that's not what the Buddha taught. What he taught is he taught this natural laws. The main natural law that he taught is called the natural law of Gama, or some people call karma. Karma is the Sanskrit version of the word. The word Gama comes from Pali. The original teachings of the Buddha are in Pali. So people who study the original teachings of the Buddha will tend to use this word Gama. This word, if it translated to just one English word, I would use that word. But it doesn't translate to any just one English word, so I still need to use the word Gama. What it means is it means cause and effect, or action and result. It's the results of your decisions. It's nothing mystical or magical. It's not punishments and rewards. It's not about who's at blame or who's at fault. It's literally the results of your decisions. It's cause and effect, or action and result. It's your life, it's your decisions, and it's your results. So for example, if you choose to be polite, kind, friendly, and respectful, people will tend to be polite, kind, friendly, respectful with you. And then conversely, if you're impolite, unkind, unfriendly, and disrespectful, people will tend to be that way with you. You'll notice that people will be impolite, unkind, unfriendly, and disrespectful to you. That's your Gama. That's the results of your decisions. So when you make unwise decisions, it's going to produce unwholesome results, or unwholesome Gama. Or if you make wise decisions, it's going to produce wholesome results, or wholesome Gama. So if you eat meat, Meat is causing the body to experience certain sicknesses and illnesses that if you didn't eat meat, you wouldn't experience those sicknesses and illnesses. It also affects the mind in an unwholesome way because they've tested animal flesh and they can see that there's cocaine, there's antidepressants, there's antibiotics and other hormones and drugs in the meat. And when you're eating the meat, it's affecting the health of the body and the health of the mind. So as you gain wisdom of this natural law of karma, of cause and effect, the Buddha is teaching you all the various things that are going to lead to wholesome results, and he's teaching you the things that are going to lead to unwholesome results. But then you're invited to learn it, investigate it, examine it, independently reflect on it in order to verify it, and then practice it and see the transformation on your own. So if you move to a plant-based food supply, or if you have already, then what you'll notice is that the body will be more healthy and the mind will be more healthy. You can see the truth for yourself that it works. So it's not about everybody running out, snapping their fingers and instantly practicing a bunch of rules. That's not going to lead to enlightenment. It's about training your mind and understanding this natural law and then making wise decisions that produce wholesome results in your life. And the more that you understand this natural law, you'll make those wise decisions. But when you lack wisdom of things like animal flesh and what that's doing for you, and you have certain cravings in the mind, there's certain longing, yearning, certain flavors that the mind is maybe holding on to, it can be very challenging for somebody to let go of animal flesh and move to a plant-based food supply. So that's where you gradually train your mind with things like meditation to bring the cravings down, and then you can gradually move more and more to making wise decisions. But each individual is on their own independent journey. It's not like you have to force yourself to do anything now. And if one person eats meat and another person doesn't, it doesn't mean one person's better and one person's less. That would be comparing. That would be the ego. That would be judging each other. Instead, everybody's on their own independent journey. And if somebody's choosing at some particular time to move to a plant-based food supply, I can help them understand how to do that in a way that's sustainable and wise and helpful. But if somebody else isn't interested in moving to a plant-based food supply, that's fine too. They can still learn and practice the teachings of the Buddha, but they're going to be affected by those decisions of eating the meat. Sometimes people think that if you kill the animal, then that's when you're getting the effect. And yes, if you killed an animal, you would experience unwholesome results because of that. But it's also eating the meat that it's affecting the health of the body. It's kind of like if you stole a car and somebody else was driving this car, this other person who's driving the car, even though they didn't steal the car, they're still going to be affected. They're still going to get arrested, right? Even though they didn't steal the car. So even though you didn't kill the animal, you're still actually being affected by your choice to eat the meat. And that's the karma, or the results of your decisions. So you can clean all that up if you decide. And there's other things like this that you might need to clean up as part of your journey to enlightenment that you learn as part of the teachings. But then you never believe it. You don't treat it as rules or commandments. You learn it, you reflect on it to verify it, and then you practice it. And then when you see your mind becoming more peaceful and more joyful because of being trained, you'll see the results for yourself that it works. Yeah, you're welcome. Yes, ma'am.
Hello. Can you please talk more about the pollutions of mind you mentioned?
Sure. There's 10 individual fetters or pollutions. I could actually use a visual aid here to help me. Let me get to a point. I will show you guys, so it'll help you guys to digest it if I show you a visual aid. I got to go through all these. It's all the way back at the beginning. This is something I teach as part of all of our different programs, and it's part of chapter 3 of the first book. Here we go. Okay, so let me let the online people see this as well. Okay, so these 10 fetters, there's 10 individual pollutions in the mind that the Buddha discovered, and what you're doing as part of the path to enlightenment is you're eliminating these fetters. That's what actually produces the enlightened mind. Every single teaching that he shares in one way or another comes back to eliminating these. So even those 227 precepts that you were asking about, they're designed to help you eliminate these pollutions of the mind. So what you're doing is, when you're first getting started on the path, you're learning the core and foundational teachings, things like the 3 universal truths, the 4 noble truths, the Eightfold Path, the 5 precepts, meditation training, things like this. You're developing a foundation in the path to enlightenment. But that foundation is actually helping you to eliminate these 10 fetters. As you're putting together the foundation more and more closely, and you're starting to reduce some of these pollutions in the mind, eventually you get to the point where the mind's starting to experience what's called the jhanas. This is another Pali word that I need to use. These are the only 2 Pali words that I use, kama and jhana. What jhana is it's a preliminary phase that the mind goes through before it gets to the first stage of enlightenment. This jhanas is like meditative absorption, that you've absorbed a certain amount of meditation in the mind, or mental absorption, where you've absorbed a certain amount of the teachings and you're now practicing those teachings. So as you put together the foundational teachings, you're not necessarily paying attention to these 10 fetters yet. You're just putting together the foundational teachings. But those foundational teachings are helping you to eliminate these 10 fetters. Then as you start experiencing these jhanas, which are improved qualities of mind that you start to notice and experience in the mind, because the Buddha explains what they are, and you can tell that your mind's experiencing these, then you start focusing on the 10 fetters and you start learning them individually. You start learning what they are. You start learning about the symptoms that they cause and the challenges that you experience in life because of these fetters. Then you learn how to eliminate them, and then you learn how to know that you've eliminated them. So by learning what the fetter is, by learning the symptoms that it's causing you, the difficulties that it's causing you in your life, learning how to eliminate it through certain tools and techniques, and then learning how to know when you've actually eliminated it, you can actually ultimately get to a point where you've eliminated all 10. And then this is where you see the mind becoming more peaceful and more joyful. And this is where the teachings of the Buddha, it's not about believing a bunch of things and then hoping that when you die, something good happens. That's not the teachings of the Buddha. You're learning now, you're reflecting now, you're practicing now, and you see the results now in this life. You see your mind becoming more peaceful and more joyful. So these 10 fetters, they're organized into the lower fetters and then also into the higher fetters. These are how we organize them. And then as you're eliminating the various fetters, your mind is moving through the stages of enlightenment. There's 4 stages that the mind goes through before it actually experiences enlightenment itself. As you're moving through these 4 stages, you're noticing a significant decrease in your discontentedness. But it's not until you get to the 4th stage that the mind is actually enlightened and you won't experience any discontentedness anymore. But just getting to the first stage of enlightenment, your discontentedness will be a fraction of what it once was, because in the first stage of enlightenment, you've eliminated the first 3 fetters. So let me explain these first 3 to you. The first one is called personal existence view. This is what we were talking about with the labels and the identity, that the mind holds on and clings to this body, and it clings to the mind, thinking that this is who you are, that the mind thinks that this self-image is who you are, and now you want to be perceived in the world a certain way. So for example, if you spill spaghetti sauce or ice cream on your shirt and you get embarrassed, that embarrassment is arising because your mind is clinging to this body through personal existence view, this pollution, thinking that this body is you. And now when the mind isn't being perceived in the world the way you want to be perceived, you think this body is you, and now you feel embarrassed in a social situation because you've spilled spaghetti sauce or ice cream on your clothing. Or say you were in a relationship, and now in this relationship, you were a boyfriend or girlfriend for a period of time, and now your mind assumed this identity. So not only is there a certain self-image that the mind's clinging to, but there's a certain self-identity that the mind's clinging to. And now in this relationship with the boyfriend or girlfriend, you've identified with, I am a boyfriend or I am a girlfriend. And now when you get out of that relationship, your mind really struggles because you're no longer in that role as a boyfriend or girlfriend. And you might feel like you want to hurry up and get right back into another relationship. So there's various symptoms focus here. So going back to the self-image, say you get a pimple or a mole, or you get gray hair, or you start losing your hair, or you get a little extra fat here or there. If you think that this body is you, you'll be shaken up when these things are occurring because you're not being perceived in the world the way you want to be perceived. Or now moving to the self-identity. Not only is it this role of being a boyfriend or girlfriend, but say a certain job or certain occupation that you might have. Now, when you're working at that job for a long period of time, if you assume that identity is that's who you are, that I am a police officer, I am a lawyer, I am a Buddhist teacher, now, when you're doing that, you'll feel happy, you'll feel excited because your self-identity is intact. But then when you maybe get laid off or you quit your job or you retire, you might really struggle because I am no longer a police officer. And now you don't even know who you are anymore. You've kind of lost yourself. You feel like you don't know who you are. You maybe feel you don't feel whole anymore. So this personal existence view, this is causing the mind to experience discontentedness, that whether it's your culture, your ethnicity, your sexual orientation, your nationality, you can experience the mind either clinging to the self-identity or the self-image. And now when you experience change, because everything around you is changed, right? You're experiencing the universal truth of impermanence. This is one of the natural laws, that you're going to experience constant change in your life. But if you hold on, clinging to your self-image or your self-identity, wanting it to be permanent, now when you start experiencing change, now you'll struggle and you'll have difficulties. So this personal existence view is helping the mind to experience all this discontentedness. It's causing the mind to experience the frustration and the agitation, the annoyance, the guilt, the shame, the embarrassment, all of these different kinds of things. So you can eradicate this personal existence view from the mind and accomplish what we call realizing non-self, where you realize this body is not you, nor this mind, that this mind is not you. It's not who you are. But the challenge is that the mind's clinging to this, holding on to it, thinking that this is you. So there's various tools and various techniques that you learn to train the mind to no longer see this body or this mind as being who you are. So this is the first fetter. The second one is called doubt. This is where when someone comes to the path to enlightenment, they'll have doubt about the Buddha, they'll have doubt about the teachings, doubt about the community that you're part of, doubt about your teacher and whether your teacher can actually help you get to enlightenment. And you might even have doubt about your own ability to get to enlightenment. You might think that there's no way that you can get to enlightenment. You might lack confidence. So it's common that someone has doubt when they come to the path to enlightenment. This is normal, that you might doubt whether this person, the Buddha, actually even lived, or you might doubt his teachings or the community or your teacher or your own ability to get to enlightenment. So the way that you eliminate this is you investigate the teachings, you examine the teachings. You don't eliminate doubt through belief or faith. That's not how you eliminate doubt. You eliminate doubt through investigating and examining the teachings, through independently verifying them and seeing that they're true, and then through practicing them. And as you're practicing the teachings and you're eradicating more and more of these pollutions, and you see the mind becoming more peaceful and more joyful, you'll eventually get to a point where you have no doubt that these teachings are leading to an improved condition of your mind and an improved condition of your life. By the time you eliminate doubt, you won't be enlightened yet, but you will have no doubt that these teachings are helping you in life and getting you to a more improved condition of mind and improved condition of life. And it just takes time to gradually learn and practice the teachings to be able to see more and more clearly that these teachings are leading to an improved condition of mind. So what you do is you end up gaining confidence. You start having confidence in the Buddha. You'll have no doubt about his teachings. You'll have confidence because you've learned a certain portion of them and you'll see that they're working. You'll have no doubt about the community that you're part of because you'll have confidence in the people that are around because you see them practicing very well. You'll see them being polite and respectful, and they're supportive and encouraging of you. They're not judging you and measuring and comparing you. You'll start having confidence in your teacher, that you've experienced a certain improvement in your mind and you know that it's your teacher that's helped you to accomplish that. And then you'll have confidence confidence in your own ability to get to enlightenment, because you'll have seen some significant improvement to the mind, and you're like, hey, I'm doing this. Wow, this is actually working. You'll feel pretty confident about that. So that's how you eliminate doubt, is through investigating and examining the teachings and then practicing them and seeing the real improvement to the condition of the mind. You can actually harness this doubt in a very positive way, because obviously people tend to have doubt when they first come to the path to enlightenment. And if you're like, you know what, I do doubt the teachings of the Buddha. I doubt them 100%. And you know what? I'm going to roll up my sleeves. I'm going to sink into this, and I'm going to try to learn these teachings and see if they're really true or not. I'm going to open the books. I'm going to come to classes. I'm going to seek personal guidance from a teacher. I'm going to talk with a teacher. I'm going to develop my meditation practice. Train the mind to be inquisitive, that, yeah, maybe you do have doubt, but take that in a direction of something positive and something wholesome, where your mind can be inquisitive and really sink into the teachings and try to discover whether they're true or not. Because if you examine them close enough, you'll see that they're true. They lead exactly where the Buddha said they do, to this peaceful and joyful mental state. So that's what the doubt is. Then there's wrong behavior and observances. What this one is wrong behaviors are things that an individual is doing that's causing harm in the world through your intentions, your speech, your actions, and your livelihood. There's certain moral conduct that you have that you may think that what you do in the world is 100% perfect, and everybody else is the problem. This is typically what the unenlightened mind has. There's certain ego in there, that thinking that everyone else is the problem and you're perfect. But if you don't understand the natural law of karma, which the unenlightened mind doesn't understand, there's certain unskillful things that you're doing in terms of your moral conduct, that if you learned how to speak in terms of the natural law of karma and speak in a way that's wise and that's harmless, then you're putting out harmless verbal conduct, and then you'll notice that more and more people will be practicing wholesome conduct with you. But if you're choosing to harm through your speech, your actions, or your livelihood is how you choose to sustain your life. If you cause harm, and you will cause harm when you lack wisdom, because you just don't know what you don't know, and those unwise decisions will produce unwholesome and unwise, unskillful moral conduct, now this harm will come back to you in your relationships. So the Buddha provides in his core central teaching, called the Eightfold Path, something called right speech, right action, and right livelihood. This is exposing you to the natural law of karma, so that you can see how to speak in ways that would be wise and that would be harmless. He doesn't teach you about your personality or your character. That's something that you will have. But he teaches you the natural law of karma in terms of things about like lying, about slandering, about having harsh speech, having frivolous speech. He teaches you how to speak gentle and beneficial with a mind of loving kindness and things like this. And how you choose to put that together with your own personality and character is up to you. But he's showing you this natural law. And when you practice that more and more readily, you can verify that it's true, because you see your relationships really improve. So by the time you've eliminated wrong behavior, you've purified your speech, your actions, and your livelihood to the point where you're practicing what's in the Eightfold Path, this core central teaching. And then there's other teachings that plug into this. And the reason why you've been interested to do this is because as long as you're putting out harm through your speech, your actions, and your livelihood, that's going to come back to you. So if you purify your speech, your actions, and your livelihood, putting out less and less harm, then you'll notice more and more wholesome results coming back to you. This is where you'll see that your relationships will improve, because you're no longer harming people through your speech, your actions, and your livelihood, and more people will be interested in spending time with you. So that's the first part of this. It's called wrong behavior. The wrong observances part, this is where an individual might have rites, rituals, ceremonies, and worship as part of their practice, thinking that rites, rituals, ceremonies, and worship is going to lead to some improvement in their life. But the Buddha never taught any rites, rituals, ceremonies, or worship. Even if you go to a Buddhist temple, even if there's someone there that appears to be a monk and wearing robes and shaving their head, if they're doing rites, rituals, ceremonies, and worship, the Buddha never taught any of that stuff, even though it's done quite frequently in certain Buddhist centers. This is because we're 2,500 years away from the death of the Buddha, and not everybody is studying with the original teachings of the Buddha. You would think that if somebody lives at a temple and, they wear a robe and they shave their hair, they must know the teachings of the Buddha, right? But this isn't actually true. The vast majority of the world doesn't actually have access to the teachings of the Buddha because they're kind of locked away in these big, thick books. There's like 45 volumes of books, and they're not locked away intentionally. It's just that they're so expensive to print that the average person here in Thailand, for example, it would take you 3 months of your salary to purchase these books. I doubt you own any book collections that cost 3 months of your salary, right? An average person isn't going to purchase a set of books that expensive. So nowadays with the internet, we can upload them and download them for free. This is why I make them available for free. All the books that I have, they're available online for free. You can take them and go print them if you like. You can get printed copies here by just reimbursing us. And we've actually consolidated it into a smaller set of books. It's only 13 books, so it's much less expensive to actually print it than the large 45 volumes of books. So because not everybody is learning and practicing the original words of the Buddha, over 2,500 years, slowly but surely, people have introduced rites, rituals, ceremonies, and worship that isn't what the Buddha taught. This is part of that delusion or the ignorance or the unknowing of true reality, the lack of wisdom, that an individual might think if you sprinkle water on you, that somehow this is going to be beneficial, or if you tie a string on your wrist, that this is going to be beneficial. These are things that people are doing, not realizing the truth, that what the real problem in the mind is one of these fetters that the Buddha refers to as ignorance right here. This is the 10th fetter. This is that delusion. That's the misunderstanding that the mind has, that the way to get to enlightenment is to cultivate wisdom and acquire wisdom. That's why you're examining teachings, reflecting on them, and then practicing them, because that's what gets you to wisdom. And now you can train your mind to make wiser decisions in the world that produces wholesome results. So if an individual is practicing these rites, rituals, ceremonies, and worship, they're not understanding what the primary problem is in the mind, that it lacks wisdom. And there's no amount of sprinkling water on you. There's no amount of eating a wafer or drinking some kind of juice or wine or anything like this that's going to produce wisdom in your mind. You need to learn, reflect, and practice. So during the lifetime of the Buddha, that's what students did, is they came to him to learn and deeply understand these natural laws, and that's what produces enlightenment. So if an individual is practicing wrong observances, then they're going to be thinking in their mind that rites, rituals, ceremonies, and worship is going to lead to some beneficial result. Now, if you're with your family and they go to church or they go to the synagogue or to a mosque or something like that, and you go along with them as a family event and there's rites and rituals and ceremonies going on there, wonderful. Enjoy time with your family. It's all about what the mind understands. If your mind understands that those things aren't going to lead to an improved condition of life and an improved condition of mind, then you don't have this wrong observances in your mind. And for some students, they're already there. By the time they come and learn with me, they've already noticed that, these rites, rituals, ceremonies, and worship that they might have grown up with, it's not really working to improve their life. So sometimes people already have that portion of this fetter eliminated before they ever come and learn with me. So then there's these other ones that we can go into if you guys have questions about them. Central desire, there's ill will, there's desire for form, formless, there's conceit, there's restlessness, and then ignorance. And as you're eliminating these, you're moving through these 4 stages of enlightenment. Stream enter is the first stage. Then it's called once returner, non-returner, and arahant. You could easily refer to these as the first, second, third, fourth stage of enlightenment. The mind's actually enlightened when you're as an arahant. An arahant has eliminated all the 10 fetters. All of them are completely eradicated from the mind. But as you're moving through these stages, like the first stage as a stream enter, you've only eliminated the first 3 fetters. And we call it a stream enter because someone who's gotten to this stage of enlightenment, it's like a log that enters the stream, that once a log enters the stream, it's only a matter of time before it gets to the ocean. it's going to get to the ocean. It's just a matter of time. So the same thing is true for a stream enter. Once somebody gets to the first stage of enlightenment, it's only a matter of time before they get to enlightenment. Either in this life or some future life, they're going to experience enlightenment. And then as you go from the first stage, an individual might move into the second stage in this life. We call it a once returner. They've already eliminated the first 3 fetters, and then they're thinning out number 4 and 5, meaning they haven't been eliminated. They're just kind of thinned out. Then you go to the third stage of enlightenment where you've eliminated all 5 of the lower fetters. And then by the time you get to the fourth stage of enlightenment, you have eliminated all 10. And what a Buddha is a Buddha has eliminated all 10 fetters, but they're a unique individual, that a Buddha has done this by themselves without the help of any teachers or any guides. They discover what it takes to get to enlightenment, and they've eliminated all the 10 fetters, but they did it by themselves without the help of any teachers or any guides. Then they dedicate the rest of their life to sharing their teachings with countless other people, and countless people get to enlightenment during a Buddha's lifetime. Then they preserve their teachings in such a way that countless more people can get to enlightenment after their death. So a Buddha is very rare in the world. The last one that the world's currently aware of existed over 2,500 years ago. He was an arahant. He had purified his mind of these 10 fetters, but he did it by himself. And he didn't need any help from any teachers or any guides. But you're going to need help. You're going to need teachers and guides because you're not a Buddha. You don't have the same qualities of mind that a Buddha has. There are certain qualities that a Buddha's mind has that it makes a person able to actually get to enlightenment without the help of any teachers or any guides. So some people will tell you that a Buddha is a stage of enlightenment. They will tell you that when you get to enlightenment, you are a Buddha. Or they might tell you that you have Buddha nature. This isn't actually true. The Buddha never said that you are a Buddha. That's not the way he taught. He taught and he explained how rare it is for a Buddha to arise in the world. So you can get to enlightenment and you'll be highly enjoying life at that point. You won't be experiencing any anger, sadness, guilt, shame, fear, no boredom, no loneliness, no jealousy, resentment. All of that is eliminated. You'll always be in a good mood. So you'll be plenty pleased with getting to enlightenment, but you won't be a Buddha at that point because you haven't done it by yourself. You're not probably going to dedicate the rest of your life to sharing these teachings because you didn't independently discover them. Some people might decide to teach when they get to enlightenment, but not everybody will. And then a Buddha is going to preserve his teachings so that other people can get to enlightenment after his death. So this is a little bit about the 10 fetters and the stages of enlightenment to help you guys understand those. So you would be learning these as part of your journey to enlightenment. But initially, you just kind of have awareness of them. You kind of know that they're there, but you really focus on the core central path that is ultimately helping you to eliminate these. But you need to really just build a foundation and a framework first before you really dive into understanding these in detail. Yes, sir.
Could you just expand on the law of karma and its or like how it relates to luck, or if luck is a thing in Buddhism and stuff like that?
I'm having trouble hearing you.
Could you expand on the law of karma and if luck is considered a thing in Buddhism, or if it's like everything, if you do good, good will come, basically, and like there's no external influences?
Sure. So I'm going to use some visual aids to help you guys on this one too. Okay, so essentially what karma is this cause and effect, this action and result, this results of your decisions. Everything you experience in life has a cause and it has an effect, or has an action and a result. There's no such thing as good luck or bad luck. There's no such thing as destiny or fate. This is oftentimes what the unenlightened mind thinks, is that what you're experiencing is based on your good luck or your bad luck, or if you have a destiny or fate, that it's almost like your life is pre-programmed. If you resign yourself to this thinking, then that means you have no control or no ability to change anything in your life, because what you experience is good luck or bad luck, or it's your destiny, it's your fate. You're locked in. You're just a robot, and everything is already pre-programmed. If you resign yourself to that type of thinking, then it's very defeating. It's very sabotaging to the mind. What you would like to do is be able to see this natural law of karma more and more closely, where you see that what you choose to do, any choices you make, there's going to be some result. There's going to be some action that's leading to a result, or some cause that's leading to an effect. And the more you can see this, then with your wisdom of this natural law, you can make all wise decisions. And now you experience nothing but wholesome results in your life. So if everything is good luck or bad luck or destiny or fate, you have no ability to change anything in your life. Essentially, what the Buddha is teaching you as part of all of this is to accept responsibility and accountability for what's going on in your life, what's going on in your mind, and what's going on in your life. And if you can accept responsibility and accountability for what's going on in your mind and in your life, now you can create real change. Because if there's something in your life that you don't particularly care for, you can actually change it. Whereas if everything that's happening around you is because of somebody else, then you might feel like you need to go out into the world and change other people. And there's 8 billion people in the world. You're not going to be able to change 8 billion people to do things your way. So if you can learn the natural law of karma, this cause and effect and action and result, taking responsibility and accountability for what you experience in terms of your mind and what you experience in terms of your life, now all you need to do is cultivate wisdom and learn this natural law more and more closely. And as you cultivate the wisdom of this natural law, you make wiser decisions and you'll experience wholesome results. But if you continue to blame other people for what you're experiencing, then it's out of your control. You have no ability to do anything because it's everyone else's fault. So rather than think about fault or blame or who's right or who's wrong, it's better to just look at it as, okay, there's a lack of wisdom here. I'm struggling. I'm having difficulties in your life. My mind's angry. I'm frustrated. I'm agitated. I don't know how to make these decisions. Let me cultivate wisdom gradually, slowly, but surely. And as I do, becoming more aware of this natural law, you'll experience more and more wholesome results in your life. So there's these various types of karma. These 4 types of karma. It's called wholesome karma and unwholesome karma. And then there's old karma and there's new karma. What wholesome karma is any decisions that you make that are harmless, where you're not harming others, you will experience wholesome results or wholesome karma. But when you make harmful decisions, then it's going to produce unwholesome karma because you're causing harm to others. In the Buddhist teachings, before you typically get to this point, you will have already learned a good amount of the teachings of the Buddha. And he's teaching you what is harmful and what is harmless. And then you don't believe it, you learn it, reflect on it, independently verify it, and then you practice it and see the truth for yourself. And when you're learning things through your own direct experience and things that you've experienced in this life, you'll be able to independently verify that, oh yeah, when I've done those things, yeah, it led to unwholesome results. Or when I see my friends or my family doing those things, oh yeah, we experienced unwholesome results. And then conversely, there are certain things you're doing now that are harmless, and in some situations you're experiencing wholesome results. So you can confirm that side of it too. So the Buddha is teaching you this natural law of karma, of how to ensure that you're not causing harm, that you can practice harmlessness, and then you'll experience wholesome results. But then because you've made a certain amount of unwise decisions in the past, you're going to need to experience those results. You can't run and hide from the decisions that you've made. So for example, say 3 years ago, you fill out a government form and say you lied on this form, or say you even just made an honest mistake 3 years ago. Now, 3 years later, you get a notice from the government saying, hey, you owe us $3,000, right? And now this is your old karma. This is your unwholesome karma. It's old karma that is unwholesome. And now you need to extinguish that. You need to get rid of it. You need to eliminate it by making wise decisions. So old karma is any decisions that you made in the past that's coming back to you now that you're experiencing the results of now. New karma is any decisions you're making now that you're going to experience the results in the future. And what you're looking to do on this path is you're looking to extinguish all your unwholesome karma, so that any unwise decisions that you made in the past and that's producing unwholesome results that are coming back to you, you're working to extinguish all of that. And you're doing that through making only wise decisions. And now those wise decisions are producing wholesome results. And more, as you put more and more wise decisions into your life, you'll get to a point where you're only experiencing wholesome results. By the time you get to enlightenment, everything is at ease. Everything's comfortable. Everything's at ease. All your relationships are peaceful and joyful. You don't have any bitterness or hostility in your mind because you've extinguished all your unwise decisions from the past. And this comes through cultivating wisdom and making wiser and wiser decisions in the present moment. So for example, this example of you get a notice in the mail from 3 years ago from the government that says you owe money. If you didn't know the teachings of the Buddha, you might try to run and hide from that. You might try to lie. You might try to throw the paper away and don't pay attention to it. But this is going to keep coming back. And now you've got interest payments and penalties and all these other things that you need to deal with. Whereas if you understand the teachings of the Buddha and you understand the natural law of karma, you know that you can't run and hide from this. So instead of continuing to lie or instead of throwing the paper away, you might take responsibility and accountability for this and say, you know what? I did make a mistake. Or you know what? I did lie. I was unwise when I did that. Let me call up the government. Let me see what I can do. Let me be polite, kind, friendly, respectful with them and see if I can talk to them and solve this problem. And then now you're extinguishing your unwholesome karma. You're extinguishing your unwise decisions from the past by making wise decisions in the present moment. And now when you call them up and you're polite, kind, friendly, and respectful, maybe they get rid of the penalties. Maybe they get rid of the interest rate. Or maybe they have a payment plan for you that will help it be more comfortable for you to pay this money back. And now you're extinguishing that rather than running and hiding from it. So essentially what an individual has done throughout their life is it's like a garden hose. All throughout your life, you've been putting mud into this garden hose, right? And now when you get on the path to enlightenment, you're deciding to hook this garden hose up to the faucet and turn on the water. And you're trying to get this clean water coming through the garden hose. And if you come to the temple once a year, if you come once every 6 months, if you meditate once a month, okay, you've got like a little drip coming through this garden hose. It's going to take you many lifetimes to clean this out. But if you open up that garden hose, that faucet, if you open up the clean water, getting into this garden hose more and more readily, maybe you're coming to the temple regularly or joining us online, maybe you're reading books, maybe you're meditating each day, you're building up your life practice more and more readily, you've got more and more water. This clean water is coming through the garden hose more and more. It's going to spit out this dirty water, but you're going to need to experience that dirty water. You can't run and hide from it. So as it's spitting dirty water, eventually you're going to get some clean water coming out. And then it's going to spit some more mud and some more dirt. Then it's going to spit some clean water. And over time, the more clean water you put into this garden hose, it's going to flush out all of this mud until eventually you only have clean water coming out of this garden hose. So the same thing is true, is that as you've made unwise decisions in the past, it's going to come back to you. But now you just make wise decisions through learning the teachings of the Buddha. And now you put more and more wise decisions into your life, and eventually you get only wholesome results. And it just takes you time to be able to accomplish that through gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress. So this is a little bit on the natural law of karma. It's important to understand that there's no being or entity overseeing this. It's not like anybody's handing out punishments and rewards. It's not the good luck, bad luck. It's not the destiny or fate. It's literally like a sequence of events. Anything that you experience is a result of decisions that you've made. And when you learn this and you understand it, then you can make those wise decisions that only produces wholesome results in your life. And everything can be at ease. Your relationships can be so joyful. Your life can be so wonderful. But right now, you're going to find it to be a struggle to do that. There might be certain people that you like, certain people that you dislike, certain relationships, maybe everything's wonderful. Other relationships, there's some bitterness and hostility in those relationships. And that's because the mind's struggling. It just doesn't have the wisdom of how to practice in such a way based on this natural law of karma. But as you learn it, then you get to a point where you're only being loving and kind and warm and gentle and friendly to everybody and anybody. By the time you get to enlightenment, you don't even have the slightest dislike towards another being, that you can just love everybody. You can have love and kindness towards everybody. Other questions? Yes, sir.
On the fetters, number 4, the sensual desire. With enlightenment, the relationship of fetters and personal relationship, mainly around sexuality, I guess, then I find that an interesting area of possible conflict.
Sure. So what sensual desire is this is where the mind has this pollution or this taint or this fetter where it's longing, yearning through the sense bases, the eyes, the ears, the nose, the tongue, the body, and the mind itself. These are called the 6 sense bases. The Buddha refers to the mind as a sense base. Essentially what the mind's doing with sensual desire is it's longing, yearning, it's wanting agreeable contact through the sense bases. And if you get things that are agreeable, then you'll experience pleasant feelings like happiness, excitement, elation, thrill, exhilaration, euphoria. But these are conditioned feelings based on some condition that you have contact coming through the sense bases that you agree with. And now you'll experience those pleasant feelings. But because the world is impermanent and you can't permanently get what you agree with, your mind's going to sometimes experience contact through these sense bases that you disagree with. And now you experience painful feelings or sadness, anger, frustration, and others. So I'll give you an example, and then we'll go into talking about the sexual thing. So say you're walking down the street and you see through your eyes that there's a mother or a father walking down the street holding the hand of their child. And you might be like, that's so warm, that's so loving. Look at them walking down the street, holding hands. That's so beautiful, that's so lovely, right? This is agreeable to you. But now say you turn the corner and you see a parent slap their child across the face. This might be disagreeable to you, depending on what cravings you have in your mind. And now you get angry, you get frustrated because of something that you have seen. Or here's another example. Say you're driving in a car and you're at a stoplight and somebody pulls up next to you with music and you hear this music and it's like, that's my music. That's my jam. Yeah, come on, let's go. Let's dance. All right. You're feeling all great because you heard this great music. But now you go to the next traffic light and somebody else pulls up to you with a different music. Because of impermanence, you're not going to permanently hear music that you like. So now you get angry and agitated and frustrated because of this music. And this is the central desire, that the mind is longing and yearning through the senses, wanting permanently agreeable contact. Either certain forms that you see, certain sounds that you hear, certain odors that you smell, certain flavors that you taste, certain contact that you have with the body, and then certain things in the mind too. So when it comes to sex, what an individual is doing is they're longing, yearning through the sense bases for agreeable contact. So the sense bases are being stimulated. The eyes, the ears, the nose, the odors, right? The flavor sometimes when sex is involved, the bodily contact, and then the mind itself. And this contact is so stimulating that you have an orgasm potentially, right? So this is the mind longing, yearning. And in the condition that you're having sex, the mind experiences those conditioned pleasant feelings, happiness, excitement, elation. And as long as you're having sex, you feel great. But then because it's a conditioned feeling, it's only temporary. The happiness is based on a condition that you're having sex. So then when you can't have sex, you'll feel agitated. You'll feel annoyed or irritated. Just like if you see the sun outside, you might be happy. But then when it rains, you might be sad. The same thing's going on with sex. So by the time somebody eliminates sensual desire, they won't have sex anymore. But you can get to the second stage of enlightenment and still maintain a sexual relationship. So if you notice in the second stage of enlightenment, an individual has thinned out their sensual desire. So as people are getting closer and closer to the second stage of enlightenment, they start noticing that they're not as interested in sex anymore. But the sex that you are having, it's actually quite enjoyable, quite pleasurable, because oftentimes it takes on about, let me please this other person. Where oftentimes when you're deep into your own cravings, it's all about your own selfish desires. You might be having sex in a way that's just all about you. It's not about the other person. But by the time you get to the second stage of enlightenment, if you're still having sex at that point, you might notice that your sex is actually even more enjoyable. So you're not needing it as frequently, and it starts to thin out a bit. But by the time you get to the third stage of enlightenment, you've eliminated all sensual desire, that the mind is no longer having sex. But oftentimes, depending on where you are in your practice, depending on your age or your relationships, you might hang out in that second stage of enlightenment for a period of time, multiple years, maybe 10, 20 years, especially if you're young and you're interested in having a family perhaps, or if you're in a relationship. You guys might be really enjoying your sex and you're having a great time, but you're also going to be agitated when you can't have sex. So you can actually do all the other work on the path to enlightenment, like eliminating the ego and all those other things that you saw, and just kind of hanging out in that second stage of enlightenment. And then 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, whatever it is that you decide that you would like to make your way all the way to enlightenment, kind of been there, done that, had enough sex, seen it a number of times. You don't need to do it anymore. It's like, all right, how many more times can I do that thing? You'll eventually start appreciating the peace and the joy in the mind much more than the sex. And if you have a partner at that time, you guys might both be at that same place. You both might be deciding, yeah, let's let go of this sex, right? It's not a big deal because we've been there, done that. We have a great relationship. Our relationship is more than just sex. Where sometimes when you're younger, that's really all it is sometimes is about the sex. So by the time you get to the second stage of enlightenment, you've significantly thinned that out. But then in order to get to the third and then ultimately the fourth stage, you will have completely eliminated sensual desire. And this is something that no one's going to ever tell you to do. They're not going to convince you to do it. They're not going to force you to do it. It's your decisions. It's your independent journey whenever you're ready. And maybe you don't get ready. Maybe you die in the second stage of enlightenment and you have sex all the way until you die, right? Some people might choose to do that, and that's their choice. And that's why there's no measuring and comparing. There's no judgment of who's at what place. You don't get a badge to wear around that you're in the first or second or third stage of enlightenment. You're not posting this on your Facebook page. You're not calling up your mom like, hey, Mom, guess what? I'm a stream enterer. Aren't you so proud of me, Mom? This isn't what this is about. This is for your personal development so that you know how to kind of plot your steps forward and develop on the journey to enlightenment. So ultimately, someone will have eliminated sex, but it's your own decision of when or if you ever decide to do that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes, ma'am. There's a mic right there on the cushion.
Hello. Hi. So I have questions about, on the previous screen. So it said, so one of example of old karma, it says the physical body. Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure the meaning. So I try to guess, and actually, so thinking about my current physical body, I'm short, it's affected me something in the current life, but I'm not sure how does the current body affect me as a karma? So okay. Would you explain a little bit more?
Sure.
Thank you.
So the Buddha taught this cycle of rebirth, that you're continually being reborn over and over and over again until you get to enlightenment. And once you get to enlightenment, you escape that cycle of rebirth. This cycle of rebirth is also something that you don't believe. You never believe any of the teachings. You can actually independently verify the cycle of rebirth. And you can see that it's 100% true when you independently verify it. It's not the place where people will typically start. You need to start on the core central teachings, and that's what's going to help improve the condition of your mind. But ultimately, you might decide to explore the cycle of rebirth. And if you learn in the programs that I teach, eventually you'll get to that point where your mind's probably ready to start exploring the cycle of rebirth. So what you learn is about how you're in this constant cycle, and that what you've done in your past lives are affecting you in this life. So when the mind is having craving, desire, attachment in the previous life, and now it produces a new mind or a new being, that new being is experiencing the results of the previous being. So whatever body you have at the time of birth, this is based on decisions from your previous life. But then in your current life, as you make decisions in this life, it's going to affect the health of the body. So like with your food, like we were talking about, it's going to affect the health of the body. But you have certain things that you've experiencing in this life in terms of the physical body, which we call old karma. That's old karma from your previous life. But now in this life, you're making new decisions that's going to produce new karma based on what you eat, based on your exercise, based on places you go, based on your activities that you do. You're experiencing new karma related to the physical body. But initially at birth, that is old karma, because the mind hasn't actually made any decisions yet in its new life to experience anything related to the body. So like if there's like a birth defect or something like this, or some kind of challenge or disorder at the time of birth, this is all based on old karma versus new karma.
Thank you so much. I think a little bit it makes sense for me. And then so that you mean, but the physical body. So just when I'm born, it's not like that I chose. I could choose. So the family and my mom, my dad, and then so those any situation, it's coming from the old karma. Then, so the kind of now the current situation. So I could choose. So what I should eat, and then how to develop my body, and how to develop my mind. So maybe I could change my karma to the next life. Next, I'm not sure this way of saying is proper or not, but. So the old karma affected me when I was born, and then so now I have a kind of a new body and then new mind. Then so I could develop by myself. Mm-hmm. Do you think I could? I understood what you said.
It sounds like it, but the goal is to get to enlightenment in this life, is to not experience another life. That's one of the very unique things about the teachings of the Buddha, where a lot of times what you see people teach is believe, and then hope something good happens when you die. Instead, you're learning, reflecting, and practicing now to get to enlightenment now so that you won't experience rebirth. But if you fall short of enlightenment for any reason, and there is rebirth, having trained your mind and cultivated your mind, you will experience an improved rebirth, where you can experience an improved birth location in terms of the culture, the country that you're born into a family that has better resources, that makes it more likely for you to then be able to have the resources you need, so that then you can actually continue to learn and continue to train your mind to get to enlightenment. So you can experience an improved rebirth through training your mind and cultivating your mind. But the ultimate goal would be to get to enlightenment in this life.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. So I think maybe this might be a silly question, but I like to Torah than now, but maybe I couldn't choose my genes when I was born. So that's also karma.
Yeah, so the way that I think about it is you're not specifically choosing what genes you have, right? But you are making choices in all of our lives. We're making choices. We're making choices to maintain and hold on to what's called craving, anger, and ignorance. These 10 fetters bubble up to something we call the 3 poisons, or the 3 unwholesome roots, or the 3 fires. And we talk about those at a high level, craving, anger, and ignorance. But the detail is the 10 fetters, right? So if each one of us, we never got to enlightenment in our previous lives. We may not have even studied the teachings in our previous lives. Our mind made the choice to continue to have craving, anger, and ignorance. And because of that choice, we then experienced rebirth. Now, we're not specifically choosing which genes that we get at the time of birth, but we are choosing every moment of whether or not we're going to practice these teachings or not, whether or not we're going to train our mind and cultivate our mind. So in that respect, we have made a choice. And that's what led to our rebirth. So it's always our choices and decisions that are leading to some results. That's our karma.
Interesting. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Just to follow on from that, to achieve enlightenment, do we need to experience every experience in life? So through our past lives as well. So, for example, one might be a criminal in one life, one might be a priest or a monk in another life. We have to go through all the experiences of life to be enlightened.
You need to cultivate all the wisdom that you need in this world about the natural laws before the mind will get to enlightenment and then be able to escape this cycle of rebirth. So one of the reasons why the mind keeps coming back, or the reason why it keeps coming back, is it hasn't cultivated the wisdom that it needs about this world. So the mind's still holding on to this world, potentially wanting things to be a certain way. And it's not until you fully cultivate the wisdom of this world, of these natural laws, that the mind can then escape this world. It's continuing to stay stuck in this continuous cycle because it hasn't cultivated its wisdom. So that's what the mind needs to do in order to get to enlightenment and then escape the cycle of rebirth.
Knowledge rather than experience is one route.
So what you're describing as knowledge, it's not just intellectual knowledge, it's the practice, right? Because someone can intellectually understand certain aspects of these natural laws, but they can't actually practice it. Their mind is struggling with actually practicing it. So the experience part, it's not that you have to be every single occupation. It's not that you have to do every single thing. It's that you need to eliminate the craving, anger, and ignorance, these pollutions, more specifically the 10 fetters. And when you eliminate those, whatever experiences you had that led to that, those are the experiences you had, and they're going to be unique to you. So it's not like there's a list of things that you have to experience. It's about eliminating the pollutions of the mind. And when you eliminate those, then the mind's enlightened and you will escape the cycle of rebirth. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're welcome.
Hello, I have questions like, in Buddhism, what is love? Because enlightenment means when you reach enlightenment, there is no more suffering or desire. So does it mean love is desire? So what is love in Buddhism?
Sure. So in the unenlightened state, the mind typically misunderstands love and what love is. There's this craving, desire, attachment that we've been kind of talking about here and there that masquerades as love. People think this is love, but it's actually not love. So in the unenlightened state, what the mind does is it says, you met somebody, you're attracted to them physically or intellectually or otherwise, maybe financially, they're secure. Whatever the reason is, you're attracted to them. And now you start spending time with them, you get acquainted with them, you go out to the movies, to dinner, you might be having intimate contact with each other. And at some point you say to them, I love you. I've fallen in love with you, right? This is what you say to them. And then as they are now going through this relationship with you, you eventually get to a point where you might say, I don't love you anymore. We need to end our relationship. This isn't actually love, right? What this is the mind is saying, I love you, therefore I want you to be with me because you make me happy and I want you to be with me. And then as long as you're meeting my expectations, as long as you're doing what I want, I will say I love you. But when you stop doing what I want you to do, when you don't meet my expectations anymore, I don't love you anymore. That's not love. That, if we would like to call it this, we could call it conditional love, but there's no such thing as conditional love. What this is you meet my expectations, you do what I want you to do, you do what I expect you to do, and I'll say I love you, and I'll spend time with you, and I'll tell you all the time that I love you. But then when you stop doing what I want, then I don't love you anymore. But that's not love, that's selfishness. That's your own selfish desires. And this is what the unenlightened mind does because it just doesn't understand anything differently in the unenlightened state. What true love is, and what you would like to work towards, where you'll see your relationships becoming very fulfilling and rewarding and satisfying and be very at ease, is you would like to get to the point where you say, I love you, therefore I would like to see you be well. Right? I have a genuine interest in seeing you be well. Right? And then you support them and you encourage them to be well. It's not about your selfish desires. It's about you would like to see them be well. Because over here, there's certain cravings and expectations. Like you might do this to other people, or other people might do this to you, or they're putting their expectations on you, and they're trying to control you, and they're trying to get you to do things the way they want. And as long as you do things the way your parents want, they'll be happy. But if you don't do things the way your parents want, they might get angry or frustrated or agitated with you. Or if your life partner or your parents or your siblings or your children do things the way you want, you might be happy. But when they don't do things the way you want, you get angry or upset. This is because your expectations aren't being fulfilled. Your wants aren't being fulfilled. And you might say that I love you, but this true love where you would like to see this person be well, it's being tainted with these cravings, these desires, these attachments of wanting this person to be a certain way. So your parents probably have unconditional love for you. That's what true love is, where you love someone as they are. That's what true love is loving someone as they are without putting your expectations on them or controlling them or wanting them to be different. But then when that true love is in there, that unconditional love is in there, oftentimes it gets tainted and polluted with cravings, desires, attachments, where now, even though your parents have unconditional love, they might want you to be a certain way, or you might want your parents to be a certain way, or you might want your brothers and sisters to be a certain way. And when they're that way, you get happy. And when they don't do things your way, you get upset or angry. So if you get your cravings, desires, attachments out of the way, then your true love can shine through more and more, where you love someone as they are. You have a genuine interest in seeing them be well without putting your expectations on them. Part of true love is to understand that everybody needs to make their own decisions. Because I suggest that you probably don't like it when someone tries to force you to do certain things. Is that true? If someone tries to force you to do something, you don't like it, right? But you might try to force other people to do things. This is the expectations. This is the craving. This is the desire. And you might think that I know what's good for mom, and I'm going to go in there and I'm going to tell mom how to do everything because I know what's best for mom, or I know what's best for dad, or I know what's best for my brothers and sisters. This is the ego. This is the ego thinking you know what's best for everybody, right? But you only know what's best for yourself. And sometimes you don't even know that because the mind doesn't understand these natural laws. So if you try to rush in and try to fix mom or fix dad or fix brothers and fix sisters, this is the mind judging that person. This is the mind's ego. This is the mind's central desire, these pollutions that we were looking at. Rushing in and trying to control this person, put your expectations on them, and then you get happy if they do things your way, and you get angry and sad if they don't. So this is craving, desire, attachment masquerading as love. You think that it's your love that's causing you to rush in there and want to fix mom and dad, but it's actually your craving, desire, attachment that's doing that. The love is, I love you as you are. I love you, right? I can love everybody because I love you as you are. I don't want to change you. I don't have any expectations for you. I don't want anything from you. I'm just here to help you, right? I just love you as you are. But when you ask me questions to learn how to improve your mind and improve your life, I will help you because you've asked me questions. But I don't expect anything from you. I don't expect you to learn what I'm sharing and go outside and instantly practice it. It's not possible. Right? So when there's craving, desire, attachment, an individual might put their expectations on you and want you to do something for them. That's the selfish desires. That's masquerading as love. But by the time you get to true love, you can just love people as they are. And you can have a genuine interest in seeing them be well. So therefore, you don't fall into love with somebody and you don't fall out of love with somebody. If you think you're falling in love with someone and out of love with somebody, what you're actually doing is you're falling into craving, desire, attachment. You're falling into expectations. You're falling into things you want. And then you're falling out of that. If you love somebody, you love them as they are. You can't fall in love with someone and you can't fall out of love with somebody. If you love someone, you just love them unconditionally. That's what love is unconditional love. And one of the challenges is that people use this word love in a lot of ways that it wasn't intended to be used. So you might say, I love chocolate, or I love Thailand, or I love Thai massage, or I love pad thai, right? You can't love pad thai because it's not a being. You can't love chocolate because it's not a living being. You can only love a living being. That's all you can love. You might crave chocolate. You might really enjoy the taste of chocolate. You might really enjoy coming to Thailand. You might really enjoy getting a Thai massage. You might like the taste of pad Thai, but you can't love it, because love is a genuine interest in seeing a being be well, loving someone as they are. So when you understand what true love is, you realize that you can't love chocolate, you can't love pad Thai. But also, if you understand what true love is, you can actually love everybody, because you don't want anybody to be any different. You just love them as they are. So this is a little bit about true love. So there's understanding these things that I'm sharing with you intellectually, and you might be starting to kind of understand some of it here and there, but then there's reflecting on it and seeing the truth in it, and then there's practicing it. So I can explain to you what true love is all day, but when you call up your mom and dad, your brothers and sisters, can you practice true love? That's the real key. And that's where the tools and techniques that the Buddha is providing you is going to help you to be able to do that. Because if you can get your cravings, desires, attachments, your expectations, experiences in life, they do things differently than you because of different experiences. It doesn't mean one way is right or one way is wrong. It's just different. And that's impermanence. But as long as the mind's craving permanence, you'll be discontent when you don't get what you want. You'll be experiencing painful feelings. So any other questions you guys have? There's actually a question online. Let me see if we're still online so I can answer this for this student. Okay. Looks like we're back online. So there's a student here that has asked a question online. She asked, what are the natural laws that the Buddha taught? The primary natural law is the natural law of Karma. That's the primary law. But then there's other natural laws, like what we call dependent origination. This is a natural law that shows the cause and effect of what leads to your discontentedness and what leads to rebirth. He gives you these 12 interlinking steps that shows you exactly what leads to discontentedness in the mind and what leads to rebirth. So these are two of the primary laws, the natural law of Karma and dependent origination that the Buddha taught. But then you could even consider things like the three universal truths, a natural law, which is something you guys may not have learned yet. You could consider those natural laws, right? And that can be folded into the umbrella of the natural law of Karma potentially, but these are the kind of core central things that you're learning. So there's all these natural laws, which I consider like an umbrella, and then under this you have the natural law of Karma, you have dependent origination, you have things like the universal truths and things like this that are the natural laws that the Buddha taught. So any other questions here that you guys have? Yes, ma'am. Batteries are impermanent. You might need to get another mic. Maybe need to change the batteries out.
Thank you so much. It might be a little bit personal question. I'm sorry. I wonder if you don't mind. So where it's when? How old you are? You're interested in Buddhism, and then if you don't mind, so share some episode or event or some person you.
Me.
Yeah, that affected you.
So when did I get interested in Buddhism? In any particular event that created that? Okay. So, all growing up, all through my life, I lived a very hostile life, very aggressive life. I grew up in a family and an environment that there was a lot of bitterness and animosity and hostility. And I always aspired for a better life, but I didn't know how to create that. I remember being 8 years old, 6 years old, crying in my room, being upset. I didn't understand why people didn't love me, because I loved them and I had love in my mind and my heart, but I wasn't receiving love and I didn't understand why. So all throughout my life, I always aspired for an improved life, but I didn't know how to do that. So by the age of about 17, I started spending time around Asian people. It wasn't like a choice that I made. I wasn't like, okay, now I'm going to start spending time with Asian people. I just started spending time with people from the Philippines, from Indonesia, from Vietnam, different places like this. And they always told me that I would really enjoy Thailand if I ever went to Thailand. And at that time, I really didn't know what Thailand was. I thought they were mispronouncing Taiwan. I said, you mean Taiwan? Like, what is Thailand? And they're like, no, Thailand, like you'd really enjoy it if you go there. Based on what I know about you and in Thailand, you would really enjoy Thailand. So I was just like, all right, whatever. And then when I was 27 years old, I met someone from Thailand and I was like, it's a real place, because there's someone from Thailand. And then we ended up coming to Thailand in December 2002. And I came here for the first time and my mind was like blown away, because I grew up in America thinking one way and looking at life in one way. And I came here and all of that was shattered, because I saw something completely opposite of everything that I ever learned. Because I learned that America's the best country in the world, and it's money and wealth and friends and all these things you had to chase after in order to create a happy life for yourself. And here I was in this remote village in Thailand where the streets were dirt roads. They were essentially living in wooden shacks, and they were the most happy, most peaceful people I've ever seen. They were working together. They were helping each other. They were so joyful, and I didn't understand why. And they were more joyful than me. And I had so many things back in America. I didn't understand why. So I kind of went on this journey, which I didn't understand at the time, but I went on this journey to figure out why the Thai people are so peaceful and why they're so joyful. And I ended up bringing Thai massage back to America with me. And I taught Thai massage, Thai culture. I taught a little bit of Buddhism. I had 2 Thai massage centers. We were very successful in this business, and about half of my employees were Thai. And I was living a very Thai life while I was in America. But by the time around 2005, I decided I was going to be here in Thailand for the rest of this life. So from 2005 until 2015, I gradually started making decisions that led to me being able to move here in 2015. So it was spending time around Asian people from the age of 17 to coming to Thailand, and then starting to kind of learn about what was going on here, and like really getting intrigued about why they are so peaceful and joyful, that I was interested in having that for myself. And I didn't understand why the Thai people were so peaceful and joyful, and I wasn't. So I had to figure that out. And I figured it out with the Buddhist teachings, that's why the Thai people are so peaceful, and that's why they're so joyful. If you look at a tree, there's leaves, there's branches, there's the trunk of the tree, and there's the roots of the tree. So like Thai food, Thai dancing, Thai fabrics, all of these things, that's like the leaves on the tree. Those are the beautiful things. Thai massage, all of that stuff. The branches in the trunk of the tree, this is like Thai culture. But then the roots of this tree are Buddhism, right? Everything in Thailand comes back to Buddhism in one way or another. Their language, the way they interact with each other, the way they spend time with each other, everything comes back to Buddhism in one way or the other. So I had to get down to the roots. And when I went into the roots, that's when I figured out, this is why they're so peaceful. So let me do that. And now that's what I'm able to experience. And now I'm deciding to share that with other people so that you guys can understand why the Thai people are so peaceful, why they're so joyful. Why do they call Thailand the land of smiles? Right? I will teach you that. I will help you to be able to discover that through training your mind. And then if you go live anywhere in the world, you can be peaceful and you can be joyful. You don't have to live here. It's not where you live that is going to produce the peacefulness. It's what's going on in your mind. So sometimes people live in places like America or the UK or Canada or Australia or other places, and they move to Thailand thinking that everything's going to be peaceful for them because they see the Thai people that are peaceful. But the thing is that their mind followed them here. right? Their mind came with them, and now they're burdened with those pollutions in their mind, and they're in Thailand being just as angry and just as miserable as they were in their other country. But if you come to Thailand and you train your mind, or you go to your country and you join us by live stream and you train your mind while you're at home in your home country, you can train your mind, purify it of those pollutions, and get to the peace and the joy. So it was me visiting Thailand and being around Asian people that was really the catalyst that got me into realizing that there is a more peaceful way to live life. When the Buddha awoke from being unenlightened to getting to enlightenment, he didn't say, I discovered a new religion. What he said was, I discovered a better way of life, right? People have turned it into a religion, but that's not what the Buddha taught. He didn't teach rules and rights and commandments and rituals and ceremonies. He didn't create an organization where there's one person at the top and everybody's following rules. That's not what he did. He just shared what did it take for him to get to this peace and this joy. And then he shared that with other people for 45 years, from the age of 35 to 80. He shared what it took for him to get to that peaceful, joyful mental state. So if you're interested in learning that, that's what I share, is the original teachings of the Buddha, to be able to help you experience that peace and joy. Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much for sharing it. Really,
you're welcome.
I'm moved to hear it. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, so it looks like we've got all our questions answered. And what I'll do is just end class by thanking all of you guys for joining, for having the dedication and diligence to learning and practicing the teachings of the Buddha. And at the same time, I'll invite you guys back. If you would like to come back and learn more, on Saturdays, Sundays, and Wednesdays, I share teachings here. And then we have various courses and retreats throughout the month. Starting this Sunday at 3 p.m., we have a 5-day retreat that you guys are welcome to come to. The details are on our website. We have a little bit on the bulletin board over there. And if you're going to be here in Thailand, you can come to the retreat here, and you can come to 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. It's up to you. People will be coming and going, or you can come for the entire retreat if you like. And if you're not going to be here, you can even attend online, because you can attend through Zoom or live stream, because we're going to be live streaming it. And if you can't attend live, it's going to be recorded so you can watch it on YouTube afterwards. So you can do it at your own pace if you'd like. So you can get all the books and videos and audiobooks and podcasts and even personal guidance and classes and courses and retreats, all available to you at no cost. So if you guys would like help to get to this peaceful and joyful mental state, I'm here to help you. Just let me know what questions you guys have. So perhaps I'll see you guys in one of these future classes or courses or retreats. And in the meantime, have a very wonderful and lovely rest of your day. Take care. Sawadee krap. Sawadee krap.
Thank you again for watching. Enjoy your meditation. Look forward to seeing you online and answering any questions that you might have. Thank you so much.